If we're having a reaction to somebody and we don't pay attention to it, we're going to be looking like we're listening maybe, but it's not going to be coming in because we haven't listened to the reactions. You have to listen to whatever's going on inside you. So I'd like to give you an example of how that happens. Because it happened to me just a few months ago, and communication isn't always here we are talking. Sometimes we listen to each other through email, and this is an email story. So a few months ago, I had a meeting with a small group of people, and soon after, I got an email from one participant who was really disappointed in how the meeting had gone, how it had unfolded. She felt that we didn't navigate the internal tensions well. We got caught in them and hijacked. We took too much time with them, with emotional content. And I was a key player in one of the personal exchanges, and so I was very much a part of her upset. Okay, so blame, criticism. So I got this email, and I knew I didn't go respond right away. That I was smart enough about. But for the next 45 minutes, I was walking around my house doing things, and I was completely absorbed at developing my defense. I mean, I had it all figured out why she was wrong and why I was right, and how that the meeting really needed to be just the way it was, and if we hadn't dealt with such and such, it would have come up to haunt it. I had my whole thing figured out. But then after a while, because I do reflect on these things, I said, wait a minute, here I am, and I wasn't listening, I was in my aversive, self-protective thing, so I said, okay, let's see what's really going on. So that's when pause, just pause. And then, I took some moments just to open up, right into this moment, my senses, and just to pay attention and feel my heart, and my heart was really, really contracted and really, really tight. So that's where the first listening went. It went not to what she was trying to say, but to my contracted, defended heart. Does that make sense? So you start with your own reaction. So I was just listening to my own tension and finding in there that there was anger, and underneath the anger, as I let the anger be there, there was hurt, and there was a sense of I'm bad. There's a sense of, something's wrong with me. And then underneath that, there's keep listening, this longing for love to be there and connection. And then as I kept listening, I listened into the tenderness of that, and then into just a space of tender presence that was there. So I kind of listened, and the listening let things unfold. And then with that tenderness, I could start saying, okay, let me listen to what's the song coming through that email, right? Just a note. The song does not always sound like some beautiful harmonic symphony at first. Sometimes it sounds bitter, but it's still a song, and it still needs to be listened to. So I could listen with that same kind of engagement and tenderness, that undivided attention, okay, what's really here, and that heart attention, that heart presence, and sense that, behind those words there was this person's hurt or feeling left out of something or whatever, I had come to. I could listen into what was there and then be able to take the content more of, okay, so what's instructive about this and what might not be. But I was listening again. I share this because we bypass that inner listening. Now, in this example, with an email example, you might say, yeah, if you're doing emails, you have time to pause and process and listen. And what do you do when you're actually, in vivo? And in a way, you do the same thing, and it's imperfect. But you do the same thing. You're listening to another person and you're sensing reactions come up, and some place in you goes, okay, this is here, I hear you, I feel you, it's okay, accepting that this is happening. In other words, there's some gesture of a kind listening attention to your own heart and body to help create the space, and with the intention that, okay, let me let in. Part of what helps, and this is why it's the 10,000 hours, is that the more that we get the knack of saying, okay, just put it down and take in what is coming in. Let myself be touched and changed, as Nipo says. The more we see the power of it and trust it. If you trust the power of listening, you'll take the chance to let go of control and listen. Okay? There's a metaphor that has been really, really helpful for me on this. And I want to share it with you. I've shared it in a talk, I think last year, where we imagine our inner life and our spirit as a fountain, the sense of what we are as a fountain, that, there's awareness and it's expressing out in our different life expressions. But when there's unprocessed hurts and fears, our fountain of who we are becomes clogged. Okay? And the painful parts of our being, when they're pushed away and neglected, they impede that flowing aliveness. Okay? So that makes sense. And that obscures, really, the song, the essence, the source of who we are. So that when we don't listen to our inner life, we get cut off from the source. But when somebody listens to us, when somebody really listens, the debris starts to dissolve and the fountain begins to start flowing again. This is the power of listening to each other or to ourselves. With the listening attention, there's a kind of dissolution of the cloggedness and a beginning of flow. And we know what it's like. When somebody really, without any judgment, with a real openness and tenderness, is listening, it starts bringing out what's there. Brings out parts of ourselves. Now, at first, the song it brings out is going to be muddied. If we've been clogged for a long time, when we start listening to ourselves, first things we're going to get are all sorts of defensiveness and cravings and confusion. It's going to be mucky. The same thing when we listen to someone else and they haven't been listened to for a while. There's a bit of sputtering. Do you know what I mean? So at first it's that way. The conversation, when you're first listening to somebody and they haven't listened to themselves or been listened to, it might be dull or superficial or self-absorbed. But if you're dedicated and you hang in there without resisting, without judging, gradually it helps that other person's tangled defenses to relax, so their natural vitality and spirit starts coming through. We know what it's like when we're really listened to. We become more ourselves. We become calmer. We become funnier. We become more creative. Love begins to flow.